Hi, everybody. We're back. And today I have a fairly old friend, somewhat old friend, and colleague all the way from Bilbao, Spain, Carlos Ramirez. And it's so nice to have you here and reconnect with you, Carlos. Welcome to the Substack channel.
Thank you for the invitation, Hugh. It's just amazing to see you again and just to share with you and spend time with you, really.
We've been chatting a little bit, just reconnecting, and just for the viewers and the listeners, the readers, this is maybe the fourth in a series of conversations or interviews. I like to call them conversations or authentic dialogues with Hakomi trainers from around the world. The last one was with Rob Fisher, and so on. So this is with Carlos, and Carlos, you live in Bilbao, which is an amazing city right up in the north of Spain on the Bay of Biscayne. And I've been there a few times
Mm.
and participating, teaching, and also participating in one of your Hakomi Spain trainings. So let's talk about Hakomi because a lot of people out there have never heard of it, or they may have heard the word and have an inkling, a tiny idea what it is, but maybe just share with us, and I would love to hear more of sort of what your experience was when you discovered Hakomi and how it became such a big part of your life and your work.
Yeah, it's a long story, but yeah, I guess in my personal suffering, in my moments of distress and suffering,
Yeah,
um, yeah, my suffering came into through my body, a lot through my body. It's not, I don't tend to get too obsessive or too blue or not to lack too much motivation, but I do feel my body a lot. I can feel the tension or the anguish or tensions or so that is how I actually got to Pat Ogden's book, The Trauma and the Body. And through that book, that Pat Ogden refer us to Roncourse and Hakomi as the original source of
yes, of
her
course,
wisdom,
yeah,
or her knowledge, of
that's right.
handling the body in psychotherapy, and
Yes,
that's how I reached, just due to a personal need, let's say, after many years of talk therapies
yeah,
and verbal therapies, which were really useful, and they are really useful,
oh, of course.
but
Each modality has its charm, but so you
totally.
were because you were so aware, mindful, I guess, of how your process, we'll call it, was manifesting through your body, that
Exactly.
you were attracted to the idea of a body-centered
Mm.
therapy or psychotherapy. And
Yeah.
Pat, of course, I met Pat once, one of the very first Hakomi trainings in Boulder, Colorado, and she was one
Mm.
of the original
Yeah.
tiny group of students of Ron Kurtz.
Mm.
Yeah,
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 it's really nice to see how she always honors,
yes,
Ron's work and Hakomi and how successful she's been with the sensory motor psychotherapy,
yes,
and
yeah.
really well structured body psychotherapy, Mm.
Brilliant. Yeah, she's taken Hakomi right into a whole demographic of psychologists and medical people and people that are working with polyvagal and neuroscience and really presented it in a way, and as you say, structured and organized so that
Mm.
thousands and thousands of people have learned about Hakomi. And her work really is mostly Hakomi, but she's definitely given it her own plot twist, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so that was the first step, Pat Ogden, and then what was next?
I mean, it was just how I felt, when before I have done many different trainings in, Gestalt therapy or psychodrama and TA, transactional analysis, integrative psychotherapy,
Yeah,
many different trainings in different, tantra training, many different models. And when
yeah,
I arrived to Hakomi, I really I went to the UK, to Sheffield, and the group felt so much at home, like being
Ah,
at home, like being,
right.
in sleepers, you could be just so relaxed. So I was really shocked, how welcoming is this, how welcoming is this Hakomi thing. So, and I started seeing how different trainers, they created the same thing. So I said, there must be like a system to that. It must be like a method, and
Right.
found this about the loving presence, and how much how much time you spend training to be able to get more and more into the loving presence,
Hmm.
in the Hakomi training,
Yeah.
that really struck me, and obviously the use of the body and the different techniques and all that, that's amazing. But just being able to sustain the loving presence,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's just really get a fine tracking of yourself when what gets you out of
Uh-huh.
the loving presence when you are with somebody,
Yes. Okay. So that term, which has come to be, like when I first met Ron Kurtz way back in 1979 and 80, um, they didn't talk about loving presence. It came along a little bit afterwards, almost as if Ron realized that it was already an integral part of the work. It just hadn't been named. But now it is very much, there's a special, specific workshop on learning to practice loving presence in a therapeutic environment. So it sounds sort of like loving presence. Well, yeah, loving is nice, people love you. Or it sounds a bit Buddhist, they talk about loving compassion and loving presence. So could you explicate what does it mean in Hakomi to be able to practice loving presence as the therapist, for example?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of like a state of mind of the therapist,
Right.
it's a state of mind where just it's like little bit of a meditation as well, sort of,
Yeah.
where you're just looking and contemplating the beauty of the person you're spending time with,
Mm-hmm.
the, honoring, the the miracle of somebody, opening their guts and their feelings and their whole soul, their whole family stories right in front of you with a commitment to feel better, to try to behave well and treat well the people they have around themselves, So it's just trying to find the beauty on the person you have inside, and
Mm-hmm.
that is just it's so touching and so profound, that
Mm-hmm.
it leads a little bit the work into a spiritual side, of just being with the encounter, sort of like the encounter of being with somebody, with another soul, I know
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
are like big words, but Hagomi has to do with that,
Mm.
how we train ourselves to be able to be more available for the other, how I can train myself to actually
Yes.
get myself way out of the way for the other one to bloom or explore or
Right.
heal or
Mm-hmm. I remember.
so yeah, I mean it's obviously and it's done from a vulnerability, because as soon as
Yeah.
we use these words and these ideas, something changes in the energy. It's just so profound
Exactly.
and
That's right. That's what I was going to say. I remember the first time when I was in one of the trainings, and I think I was actually assisting Ron, but loving presence had come into the curriculum, and I remember in the breakout session or whatever it was, experiencing it, and our goal was to find at least one thing in the other person, the client or the patient, that we could actually love and be delighted with. So, some people are easier to love than others, maybe for different reasons, but we can always find something. It could be the way they put their head to the side, or their sense of humor, maybe, or beautiful teeth, um, or they have good taste in the way they're dressed. It's something that attracts us. And it's because when we love somebody, as you say, it changes the energy. Rather than just being, there's me and there's you, and there's a divide between us. I'm the therapist and I'm sitting in this chair, and you're the client and you're in that chair. So, we got to figure out how are we going to work together. But once that loving attention is activated, it's like there's an energy connection with the other person, and they feel it. They can see it in your face that you're actually welcoming them and present with them, and then that helps them to feel safe and open up and explore. Yeah.
Mm.
So loving presence, and you felt that welcoming from the people when you went to England in that training, and then so you enrolled in a training, right?
Yeah, I complete my training there, like the basic training,
Yeah.
and then I met this other Spanish guy, David Medina,
Right.
and we sort of joined forces in I think it was 2014, around 2014. We joined forces and we said, let's start training, let's start bringing trainers to Bilbao so we can keep learning and we can start sharing with the community of our friends and colleagues and professional colleagues.
Right.
And we started an adventure. And here we are like 10, 11 years after that. And now we are trainers and there is a large community in Spain of people practicing Hakomi, growing community in Barcelona and many other places, so yeah, it's been an amazing journey. And obviously, there is a journey with conflicts, with growth, possibilities. But in general, it's been amazing, and how people gets attracted by Hakomi. How people who work with trauma treatments and psychotherapies, how they benefit from it because Hakomi offers
Mm,
a really kind and even self care,
mm,
place for the professionals. It's like a really tender place to be a Hakomi professional. Where you don't have to impose your views or you don't have to achieve much. Obviously you have your psychotherapeutic goals,
right.
but I would say there's a really sweet place to myself as a psychotherapist practicing Hakomi. So
Hmm.
that is one of my visions. To actually bring Hakomi to more and more psychotherapists, so they can really care for themselves in the work we do, because sometimes the burning out, is an
Mm,
issue for psychotherapists. So Hakomi really brings awareness to our being as psychotherapists, and that would be something I would love, just to bring
this
more of
is
that to the
yeah.
really exhausted community of psychotherapists.
That's true. And well, I remember being in your office there in Bilbao, close to the little river that comes in, and you already had a very successful practice as a psychotherapist, and you had groups would meet in that office. And when you invited me to Spain to give that first little Hakomi workshop, that's where it happened. Um, so I'm thinking also of medical people, doctors, at least in North America, probably have the highest suicide rate, addiction rate of any profession. Um, they're just under so much stress, and it would be wonderful to create a course specifically designed for medical doctors. Anyway, just an idea, as well as psychotherapists too. Psychotherapists anybody can get burned out, of course, but
Right.
it's very demanding for a psychotherapist to always be in that role, of helping the other person and giving, and it's hard work. It's really hard work, and it takes a lot of skill and awareness and presence and mindfulness and some study as well, some skills.
Mm.
So it's very intense. So yeah. So have you found, like personally, in your own family life, for example, relationships that Hakomi is, can you apply Hakomi principles and techniques even into personal relationships?
Yeah. Is kind of interesting, because I am sensing that it's two persons here in love with Hakomi, so I don't know how objective we can be,
Yeah,
I can imagine, I know how touching and life-changing has been for me, was for me years ago and
mm,
it still is,
yeah,
and and I know I notice how you speak about the method and how much love you have for it as well, so I
sure.
don't know how for the listeners how much objective we can be, but yes, Hakami can be many things. It can be a really sharp tool for working with trauma.
Yeah,
It can be a really useful tool for coaching, for personal growth, for change. But it can also be a way of relating as well, you know. It sounds strange because, you know, it seems that you are losing the setting, the therapeutical setting, you know, but Hakomi and Ron, I think they brought something, you know, that it transcend a little bit just the therapeutical setting can be used as well in relationships. And it's a way of how we connect with people, how we use, you know, humanistic or Rogerian contact statements in a really fine-tuned, attuned way.
Yes.
So yes, I mean, um, I can only wish to put more Hakomi into my daily life. You know, I put as much as I can. You know, but
Yes.
as you said, sometimes you know these stressful lives that we have. Sometimes you know it takes away from Hakomi, from those principles. You know, of organicity,
Hmm.
calm. You know. You see, I was just sharing, and my phone is ringing. Can you hear it?
Yes. A
Yeah,
little
I'm
bit,
sorry
yeah.
about that.
No, no,
I'm sorry.
it's barely audible. Don't worry. Yeah.
All right.
Well, things like you mentioned tracking when we were talking about loving presence, that it's also important to be able to track like a hunter, which is a skill that we learn, to read the body language and the tone of voice and posture and so on of the client. But we need to track ourselves also. And you said, I need to track myself so that I know when I'm not in loving presence. So what would you say when you are in loving presence and it's easy and it's flowing? What does that feel like? And what does it feel like when you're not in loving presence?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think when we drop the loving presence, you know, it's really easy to fall somewhere in a place where Ron used to call systems, you know,
Mm.
but more like for the general public, is more like we're starting to generate more control transference, you know. We're starting to maybe trying to change the other, or we
Uh,
try to push the process, or we're trying
mhm,
to
mhm.
get the other person to change or to do what we want them to do or things like that, you know. So
Mhm.
loving presence is a sacred thing, you know. It's sacred, you know, because
Yes. Yeah.
it's a really created like a really safe environment for the healing to happen, and and that together with what you said before, this tracking of my own body, you know, allows me to really track what is going on in the relationship, you know, what is going on here, you know,
Mhm.
what is the missing experience between you and me, you know,
Mhm.
what what would be nice for you to get? What will be really, what is missing in this relationship? You know, is it missing that you start moving and doing things in your life, or maybe it is missing that you can slow down and do less things in your life? You know,
Mhm.
and usually what happened in the relationship in the here and now, you know, in the present experience, you know, is related to the missing experience that we went through when we were younger,
Yeah.
you know. So it's
Yes.
in Hakomi, we are all the time working with the present experience, but the therapists always have an eye as well on what was the missing experience, what were the relational needs that were not covered
Exactly.
in this person development that made this person be who he or she is right now, you know, and how all that adaptations are actually embodied right now in what I'm seeing, you know, how
Exactly.
can I track the little child this person
Yes.
was and how is expressing right
Yes.
now, you know,
Yeah.
and we do that all that through the body, reading the real gestures, the real movements,
It's
and that
really
is the beauty
quite.
of Hakomi, you know, that is more into now into the techniques, you know, of the
Exactly.
method, but
Yeah.
that is
But
also something that
it's
is particular in the method as well.
mhm. The noticing. I remember I've watched Ron work both in person and on video as well, and he was particularly gifted in being able to see something that maybe nobody else would see. He called them indicators, habits, hábitos, they say in Spanish.
Yeah,
Hábitos.
indicadores.
So little physical habits that we have, like maybe a little shrug. It could be
Yeah.
very subliminal, or a little, one eyebrow goes up, one shoulder's a little bit higher, or maybe, you know, and he would hone right in on that little indicator, and almost immediately he could identify what you call the missing experience. So just to flesh that out a little bit for the viewer, there are certain experiences that ideally we receive and have as a child in our family of origin: safety, positive attention, support, nourishment, um, interest, sincere, authentic interest by the mother and the father, especially. And so, if one of those is missing, then that becomes kind of a black hole, out of which come a lot of other traumatic, post-traumatic experiences. It goes very deep because when we're small, mother and father, that's pretty much the universe. God, Goddess, everything that we know and experience comes through them, and we're so vulnerable and so dependent. So the slightest little missing experience can actually lead to a lot of suffering afterwards. So just that concept that our inner life and missing experience is reflected and carried through the body, the soma, and that little clues are poking their head out. So if another person or a friend, it could be, or partner, but especially a therapist who's being paid to work with these dynamics, can develop their perception, their ability to track, like a hunter looks for the tracks in the ground. So we look for the tracks of the belief system, of those kind of conditioning ideas or beliefs, psychological beliefs that the person holds about who they are in the world and what that world is like. Then it leads us, so like the therapist and the client, like fellow detectives, or sleuths down the path together until, bingo, all those little clues that bubble up from the unconscious mind through the techniques that have been used to access that material, they lead to the identification of a core belief. For example, no matter how hard I try, I'm never good enough, or I don't belong here. I don't feel safe. And there's a few basic ones, and then many variations. So that's sort of what that tracking can lead to. And then very gently, non-violently, so to speak, accompanying the client along that path, so they feel not only safe enough, but interested and curious to access the information from the unconscious. So it's a beautiful kind of, the role of the therapist is like a midwife in a way, and a companion, a fellow detective, and a supporter to bring the new nourishing experience in to heal what has been either hurt, abused, or just was missing originally. So it sounds like right from the get-go, at the beginning, you felt that safety, I suppose, or welcoming attitude by others who were already involved in learning the method. And now you're not only a practitioner, but not only a teacher, but a trainer. Not only a trainer, but a senior trainer, and the founder, co-founder, and organizer of Hakomi Spain. Good for you,
Yeah,
Carlos. Yeah.
no, I mean it's been like a natural process, really. It's been a natural process. I only can only be grateful for the trust that people has put in the method, and for the trust of the people that actually joins our trainings and our calls and our proposals.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's all about, we do know that the brain and the body and the persons, we change through experience, new experiences. We obviously we have some information that comes from our ancestors and our genes and epigenetically as well. But
Right.
the little thing we can do here is between each other is just to create new experiences.
Mm.
And Hakomi is all about that, creating new experiences.
Mm.
If we can actually match those missing experiences and create a new possibility for a person, that is amazing. That will be the goal. Sometimes it's more available, sometimes it's less available, but
Mm-hmm.
our goal is not actually to make people acquire new new behaviors or something like that. It's just
Yes.
about creating new experiences. And
Yeah.
when the people feel this calm and this wellness inside, they are able to go out and behave differently, or be more loving to the person, or be more loving
Uh-huh.
to themselves.
Yeah.
So that is the beauty of Hakomi. It's not We don't have to do much just to offer a new experience to the people,
Yeah,
have that, watch those indicators to know, so we can find out what is the missing bit, what is the missing experience,
yeah,
what is needed in this particular time, and then
exactly.
trying to offer it, in a really relaxed, loving, and mindful way.
Mhm. A new experience which can support a, a new belief,
Yeah,
a new
exactly.
belief that would be less limiting than the old one, which is no longer working well. Yeah. Okay. I wonder if you could maybe just for fun. I know. Thank you so much for speaking in English. I know it's not your mother tongue, but maybe you could just demonstrate for us in Spanish, even though people don't know exactly what you're saying. We can translate it after, but just um, maybe explain what a probe is or a verbal experiment in mindfulness and how that is
Mm.
used in a session with a psychotherapy client. And then maybe just demonstrate one in Spanish, your mother tongue. It might be
Yeah.
easier to put the natural intonation and so on and the rhythm. Would you do that?
Yeah, I mean, the particular something that was special or particular in Hakomi is using experiments. We do use experiments to self-study, to study the experience of somebody, to experience how somebody has organized around trauma or whatever we are studying.
Yes.
And experiment is something really simple. It's just actually to go mindful, to go to a place where I can notice I'm breathing, thinking, having emotions, noticing my inner world.
Hmm.
And we propose a little change. We change something, we offer a new information to the system, and then we see what changes, what comes up, what are the vocations. And as you said, something can be a probe, which is something a really simple information, a really simple um, information to our brain, to our body. So if I we might do something really really simple if you wish, because
Sure.
I know you also speak Spanish. We can do it like half the way Spanish English or use both.
Claro. Claro que sí.
And this could be like a little demonstration of a Hakomi experiment. Obviously, we are not going to address any important topic or anything. It's just
Hmm.
like in a pedagogical way, so people can see what is this thing of
Sure.
experiments.
Sounds good. Yeah.
So
Está bien.
yeah, so would you like to go a little mindful and we can do a little experiment?
I would love to. So yeah, so I'll
Yeah,
just take a deep
yeah.
breath and make a little slide into a deeper, slower state of mind where I can be relaxed but alert and just be ready to notice anything at all in my field of experience.
Just notice what changes in you when you hear Hugh. It's a pleasure to be around you.
Well, the first thing, it just felt like there were birds, little birds or butterflies flying out of my the top of my eyes and my forehead, so like kind of a little excitement or tingling. And also, it really touched me. I just started to cry. I could feel tears coming through here. I was just very moved. So it feels like maybe on some level I have some doubt, maybe that people enjoy being around me. Maybe I'm not enjoying being around myself. I'm not sure how far to analyze that, but that's the question that it brings up. That why did I have such an emotional reaction? I mean, if we were going slower, I could have almost started to cry a little bit. Um, yeah.
Es un placer estar a tu lado.
Gracias. Igualmente.
So you
So
see,
yeah,
something Hakomi is something that we co-create somehow as well.
yeah,
And obviously Hakomi can get so beautiful, there's so much beauty in the work that we do, because we only use potentially nourishing experiments. We don't try to scare people and see what is the reaction. We try to
right,
be
yeah,
really
yeah,
kind, really loving to
yeah,
people, and then see the reaction, and that's going to release really core information, And obviously, it is important in Hakomi that we have a strong ethical code,
Yes.
because obviously it can get so intimate, so both can get to so vulnerable situations. We can be feel so vulnerable and visit so
Yes.
deep and
Yes.
profound emotional experience that it's important for us to have a really clear ethical framework where it's really well define who is the therapist, what are their limits, the responsibilities of the therapist, and also know the vulnerabilities of the person we are working with, how much this person are bringing the whole soul, and they are sometimes from a despair position, they are bringing all the information, they are bringing all their souls,
Yes.
perhaps with big trauma wounds, with big studies of suffering, and then we have to, know how responsible we are, and quoting a little bit of the Rise of Power,
Yeah.
the really embodying and knowing very clearly how much we have 150% of responsibility as therapists,
Mhm.
how
Yeah, a very
how large responsibility we have. Yeah.
clear sense of boundaries, and the method is so powerful. For example, that little experiment with the probe, or sondeo, they say in Spanish,
Yeah.
it's just to see what's there. Like they used to send probes up into outer space to see if there was any intelligent life in the universe.
Yeah.
But if you had said those same words to me and I was not in mindfulness, just ordinary conversational mode, that it's a pleasure to be around you, I probably would have said, "Oh, thanks,
Thank
Carlos.
you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Same to you."
Yeah.
It would have been much more superficial.
Yeah.
But because I had gone down to that other level, it just, and I felt safe with you, to be able to do that, a whole bunch of information came up from my unconscious mind that could
Exactly.
help us in a therapy session to go down that path. So, but yes, when someone comes, sometimes with the child consciousness too and memories, it's a very delicate, um, precious interface. So that's why it's so important to have the loving presence in the environment, but also um, the therapist really has to know themselves and have done
Mm.
their own psychological work, psycho or spiritual work even,
Mm.
to be able to to come into that interface in a strong, supportive, gentle, nourishing, um, and reciprocal way. It's an amazing thing when two souls, two personalities, even two minds, two hearts can come into a shared space, and within that magical space have those new experiences that you
Mm.
mentioned that can
Mm.
really change a person's life.
Yeah, I met recently. I met this young businessman,
Yes.
loving person, really successful in the business,
Okay.
and I explained him, we can have like a talk therapy, or we can do these little Hakomi experiments,
Right.
and we have one, and it was really something really simple, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like, I think it was something maybe now you can relax. Now you don't have to do anything right now. No, we were sitting. He didn't have to do anything. He has a large corporation or something, but right now with me sitting, he didn't have to do anything. So a lot of information came. And he was able to see his own beliefs about success and pushing and many things. So it was a really nice session, and at the end he said to me like, "Wow, now I think I understand this Hakomi thing. So it's you and me. We're hacking my own mind."
Exactly.
like, like a hacker, and
Yeah.
it really is a way through the relationship we find ways so I can self-study my own reactions and my own habits and my own
Yes.
the way that my mind organizes around
Hmm.
anything about what happened in my trauma, what happened in the accident, what happened in the abuse I went through, or in how I relate to my partner. We find we open a space for people to self-study how I organized about any particular topic.
Yeah.
And it's done in a really gentle way, and that is just amazing.
Hmm.
Just amazing.
Yeah, I think that's one of the ways that it keeps the method very safe, for the client, because at the end of the day, we're studying. It's
Mm.
called the Hakomi method of somatic mindful-based self-inquiry or self-study.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're claiming to heal the client in
No.
one session or even 10 sessions, but we're helping them study those conditioning beliefs. Is that what you said? Yeah. So,
Yeah. Yes. It's just to we are we run by habits. We have habits of reaction, habits of response.
right.
Uh, Seeing ourselves build up on habits is a really
Mhm.
kind way to understand us. Like when when I don't get what I want, I get angry. That's a habit I have. Some other people are when they don't get what they want, they shut down or they are quiet. Some other. So it's just habits. So let's study these habits. So you
Study.
can
Yes.
you can get to know very well the habit, get to know more who you are, and then from there maybe new possibilities come up. And
Yeah.
and we do it. I know it sounds maybe sometimes it sounds cheesy, but we do it in a really loving way, really
Yes.
welcoming,
Yeah.
as if nothing is wrong with the person, and that itself is just something so special.
Yeah. Yeah.
And obviously,
Well,
we are always really committed to the goals we have. Obviously, people are paying for a service,
of
but
course.
for the work we do, we try to leave that aside and just be, in a collaborative way with
Hmm.
one each other, and
Yeah.
that sometimes itself is a missing experience.
Exactly. And that word presence, a lot of a Hakomi session is in the present moment.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of telling the story. My mummy was mean to me, or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, Especially the first session, first couple of sessions, it's important for the therapist to know a little bit of the backstory. But then we just really zoom into the present moment, and those little experiments in mindfulness are mostly in the moment. And that may even have been the very thing that was the missing experience, that the child never really felt that their parents were 100% present for them because they were distracted by alcohol or whatever, and
Work,
so and work, of
work,
course,
yeah.
exactly, yeah. I mean, some families it's just to survive. Both parents are struggling and working. It's not their choice necessarily to neglect their children, but it's part of the
Mm.
territory, logistics. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
my
and
friend, yeah, go
no,
ahead.
we always talk a lot about trauma, and neglection and neglect,
Yeah.
and obviously that is a large part of our society, and it
Mm.
creates a lot of suffering. But I think there is also a lot of suffering in loving, kind, well-structured families as well, where we suffer this accumulative trauma, like in Spain there was a huge culture of bars, there's
Yes.
going to the bars and having bars. It's really common in every town, in every village. So
Yes.
there is a whole part of the populations who were sons or daughters of families. They had their own a bar.
Yeah.
So, and if you own a bar, you have to be there hours and hours and hours.
Right.
So they were loving bartenders and loving fathers and mothers, but they spent many, many hours a year,
Of course.
on the bar, in front of the bar, serving and giving
Yeah.
meals.
Late
And
late at night.
so, yeah, so, some of the children there, they organized themselves. I was thinking that they were not as important as the business or as important as the money or as important as the clients, or that the work is more important than me.
The customers. Yeah.
So, so than the customer, exactly. So, sometimes trauma comes from a really simple situations that, we develop adaptations, and then those adaptations are very
Yeah.
useful at the time we develop them. But then when we are in the adult life,
That's right.
it doesn't allow me to actually, bring a family up, or doesn't allow
Hmm.
me to actually get a job or take care
Yeah.
of myself. So those studies we also, those things we also study really well in Hakomi, things related
Yeah.
to accumulative relational trauma, you
Hmm.
know, which are really important, and they create a lot of suffering, that can be perhaps with
Absolutely.
few Hakomi sessions they can really um, soften that, and then bring some light there, and people can actually move forward in a much lighter way.
Yes. And sometimes it's not always about remembering or identifying the cause. If that emerges, great. But
Yeah.
sometimes, especially recently, we've been learning a lot about transgenerational trauma, which comes down from grandparents and great grandparents and uncles and aunts. So, or the collective trauma of the whole civilization. So the horizontal comes in and vertically it comes down. So it's not always from the home of origin, mother and father. So even if there's something appearing in the habits and the beliefs which is limiting or traumatic, and you can't find the origin, Hakomi can still work with it in a
Totally.
beautiful way. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly. We don't need to go down to the trauma. It's just about
yeah,
creating a new experience and for the
exactly.
person to feel that new sensation, to have new information in the body where, oh, this is good. Let's stay
Hmm.
there. Let's make that bigger. Let's get that feeling in you bigger. Nothing else.
Well, as a way of winding down, I think I've had a new experience. At least it's been a long time since you and I have spoken, even on Zoom or anything like that. But we've spent some very high quality time
Mm.
together in Spain, and I hope that maybe we'll be together again uh, somewhere. But it's been a wonderful, nurturing experience for me just to hear your voice and uh, listen to you talking about Hakomi and your life and your work and your relationship. So thank you so much, Carlos, for I know you're a really busy guy. You have two children. How old are they now?
6 and 7, 6, 7.
Wow.
7.
Woo.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I know you're a very busy guy, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about the next stages of Hakomi Spain
Mm.
and the expansion through the peninsula, Portugal as well, perhaps someday. So I'm just going to call, excuse me. So I'm going to ring the little Tibetan bowl, which I forgot to do at the beginning, just to set a nice little tone.
I would like you to do a
And
little invitation, you know. I would
yes,
love to, I know you have been over and I hire you to teach here as well before, but I would like to offer you to come to teach, you know, and maybe you can, in Hakomi, we can integrate different views, you know, so you can integrate the work you do with the Corazon method, with the voice,
okay,
with many other healing practices you have
sure.
from the ancestors in North
I would
Canada.
love
So
to. Yes, I would love to. Please, we can talk about that. And I love to teach, and I do. Hakomi is just one last little thing about Hakomi. No matter what kind of modality you are already practicing or studying, Hakomi is very adaptable to dovetail. So I combine myself, Hakomi, with the Coruscant method of authentic voice, and it can be integrated with other modalities as well. So yeah, well, thanks for the invitation, and I look forward to
thank you,
that
you. Thank you, Hugo.
when the time is right. Yeah, thanks. Say hello to
Bye
Marichello, your
bye.
lovely wife. Take care.
Bye bye to all the listeners as well. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, bye.